And I just have one question for you. Did they give you your AARP card before or after you won?
All right, and welcome back to the Wedgie Podcast. I'm Dan Carlson here with Tanner and Caden. We had an interesting week last week. Big filming week for us out in St. George, doing some filming for some different clients. Any stories you want to share from that weekend?
There is one. It's funny you should ask.
Okay.
Because yes, there is one. Okay. We were out there shooting. We were there for 2 days, shooting for 2 days with 2 different clients. It was a lot of fun. One of the shoots we were doing on course, it was the second hole that we were on. So we had just started the on-course stuff, and this rooster came up out of nowhere on the fairway of hole 2 of Coral Canyon. This black rooster, and he was not shy whatsoever. In fact, he kept running at us and charging us. And there was 4 of us out there. We had 3 carts, and we were running around. We were trying to move the carts up and to the side just a little bit. We're like, oh, if we go up 20 feet, then, maybe he'll chill out and we can shoot what we want to shoot. And he would not leave us alone.
I'll tell you
the
what,
whole
man.
Time.
Everybody's big talk that they're ready for a fight. When that rooster starts charging, every one of us became a 6-year-old
It
girl.
was not shy. It was running directly at you, and it would start kind of slow, like, okay. And then it would get going and run at you, and it would run at the carts. We were trying to drive away with the carts, and he was just running at us.
Well, and this is the part of the story that may not look so good on our part, but we had to distract the rooster.
Well, yeah, we couldn't.
The wedge.
We could not shoot because it wouldn't leave us alone. And it's not like it was just standing there. It was trying to come like peck us.
Well, and so we started trying to throw some food away so that the rooster wouldn't pay attention. And all we had on us were chicken strips. And so we're tossing these chicken strips, and the rooster's going off and pecking and eating those. So we
I was trying
the rooster into cannibalism.
I was trying my hardest to pull off breading. Let me just say that. I can't promise that that's all I pulled off. And then the funniest part was that was towards the beginning of the shoot, right? As we mentioned, we go the whole rest of the shoot. It goes great. We had a good time. Everything. We come back to the parking lot. The sun's down. It's getting dark. We're done. We're zipping everything up, putting it in the cars, all that stuff. And this guy comes up to load his bag into his truck, and he goes, "Was that chicken messing with you guys too?" And we were like, "Yes, were you behind us?" He goes, "Yeah, I saw you guys out there running around with it and throwing food at it." And that's when we told her it was chicken strips and all this stuff. But I thought it was so hilarious that guy from the tee box, he was behind us, had seen us mixing it up with the chicken, and then the rooster, and then when he got there, it wouldn't leave him alone either. He said it was charging him. He couldn't hit his ball.
You wanted more chicken strips. Must have been it.
Hey, those chicken strips are good.
They were good.
Coral Canyon Grill did us very well. I think I double ordered both days. I went chicken strips.
I think me, you, and Isaac all did the same thing.
They hit you with tots, instead of fries,
which
everybody knows.
Can we normalize tots?
It depends on the type of fries, but honestly, tots are better than fries. Like if I had sweet potato fries or tots, I'm going tots. Sorry, did I say sweet potato?
Yeah.
You said sweet potato.
Sweet potato tots would beat sweet potato
with a little
fries.
hot marshmallow in the middle. Could you imagine just a packet and just you know what I'm saying?
We might be onto something.
Never mind. Take that out.
Wedge
I don't
Ventures.
want them to know
Wedge
about
Ventures.
that idea.
That's
Take
the
that
next
out.
podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can jump kind of into today's podcast. We've got a awesome guest. I'm really, really excited for this episode. Full transparency, we've already had the interview and had an opportunity to talk with Ryan Reisbeck, 2023 World Long Drive Senior Champion. I don't know, Caden, what can they expect from the interview?
I mean, Ryan is honestly, he's a really good friend of ours too. Excuse me. The dude is just witty. He's hilarious. And so he's always got, some joke up his sleeve. And honestly, he provides such great insight into the sport. And so you can expect some laughter, but also some real good kind of data and insight into the sport of World Long Drive.
All right. Well, then let's jump into it.
Yeah,
The
grid is clear.
The grid is clear.
Fire away.
There we go.
There's your intro.
Okay. So today we got a awesome guest, a guy who goes by many titles, so many I had to write them down. We've got father, husband, elder, owner of the PLDA, the 2023 Senior World Long Drive Champion, and then the most important title, the first guest on the Wedgies podcast, Ryan Reisbeck.
You forgot Bubba.
Oh, and Bubba, of course.
Yeah,
We
specifically
wouldn't want to
Bubba.
forget that.
But Ryan, Bubba, Reisbeck, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me. You know, I picked up another one in Atlanta when we would stop, and one of the guys that was riding in the car with us every day to the golf course, we'd go to a Starbucks, and the lady Chell was her name. After 2 or 3 days, noticed that I was always wearing 2 hats because I would have my Callaway hat and then my World Long Drive hat, and so I think the 3rd or 4th day we pulled up, and she called me Two Hat Ryan.
Two Hat Ryan.
Two Hat Ryan. So
almost like Two-Face. You got 2 personalities.
Yeah.
and that kind of goes with I'm always like doing multiple things, I guess. So career ADD maybe.
Well, I think that's a little bit of what we wanted to kind of jump into and to kind of learn more about with you is obviously, who you are and what you go. But I think the biggest, most recent thing was obviously coming back from that World Championship in Atlanta with the 2023 Senior World Long Drive Championship. I think that might be a great place to start to talk about that.
Yeah, what do you want to know? I mean, it's been since I started in 2010 competing in long drive, and so it only took me like 14 seasons, I guess, 14 attempts to finally win a world championship.
I mean, it was your first attempt on the senior tour.
It it should be my best opportunity, right? I'm not getting any younger as the world goes on, so winning it the first year is probably the best. But I think there's still, like in my mind and honestly probably a lot of the other competitors' minds, because Eddie Fernandez was hurt, that maybe it didn't mean as much because Eddie wasn't 100%. So I am determined this year to win it again, and I hope that everybody is healthy so that we can have that that feeling of overcoming the world. Because it kind of felt like I did, but then it was like, this guy, because Eddie, he beat me twice, the 2 tournaments before. In Kingsport on his last drive, he got me, hit a fantastic ball. In Utah, same thing in the championship round, he beat me. And so for me, it was a success, I think, to win the world championship. But I feel like there's something more to keep pushing for.
So are you willing to kind of tell Eddie like you're coming for him?
Yeah, I want Eddie to 100%. And then I'm going to beat him.
I think that's something we'd all like to see. Like, I know you mentioned those 2 events before, Eddie beating you in both of those. Like, you guys both had fantastic sets and finals in both of those, and so it was fun to watch you both in those. And then obviously at Worlds when you took him down there. So I think that's going to be a fun duel to watch for years to come. Like, you guys both at the top of your games at the age that you're at is a lot of fun to watch. And I just have one question for you. Did they give you your AARP card before or after you won the championship?
I actually had my AARP card before the
Very
championship.
responsible of you. Fantastic.
I was planning to take advantage of all the benefits.
As you should. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
That's
That's what you do when you get old, is you plan things out. Yeah. Benefits. That's what we're looking for. I do know that just because I'm a senior, I don't get a discount at the Golden Corral, regardless of my championship. So they're a different level of senior qualifying there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the cream of the crop. You got to be elite senior level.
Yeah, that was the first place I went and tried to get a discount.
When they said after you won Worlds, and they said, Ryan, you just won Worlds. Where are you gonna go? You didn't say Disney World. You said Golden Corral.
Golden Corral. Yeah.
Golden Corral.
Well, I have 5 kids, right? So when you have 5 kids, they love the buffet style. You can just go get whatever you want, and half the time they take 3 bites and they're like, I don't like that, and then they go get something different. And the lady comes to, service your table, and there's all these half-eaten plates of food, and they're bringing more, and they're over at the chocolate fountain, dipping marshmallows and making ice cream. And
is that where the Reisbeck family Thanksgiving happened? Was that Golden Corral?
No, we only do it like a couple times a year, really. But they love Chuckarama. That's a local
Up Chuckarama.
Yeah, that's another buffet style that they love. So. Yeah,
big fan of the Chuckarama personally.
Yeah. We're not getting paid for any of this
ad
placement either. So
no, yeah.
If anyone's listening, call us.
Yes, exactly.
We're still in support of local eateries.
Yes,
for sure. Well, then I think, you mentioned kind of you got your start there in 2010. So you've been competing. I think a lot of, obviously the context here is, we've been working with you guys on the long drive all season, been helping out with the social media content and a lot of those different media outlets. And I think an early question on for us as we were getting into the sport was, how does someone get into long drive? And we'd love to hear kind of your story of what led you down this path and kind of, relating that to other athletes.
Well, I'm convinced that the more I do this and the more players I get to know, that it almost invariably is somebody tells them that they hit the ball a long way and that they should try long drive. And it's not that most players see it and they're like, I want to do that. It's people have to encourage them to do it. So that was true with me. I played in a golf tournament, just a local neighborhood golf tournament, and some friends of mine were like, you should go do this. And I thought he was my friend Eric. He's listening, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But he was like, you really should go try this. I thought he was just messing with me, because he kind of tends to do that a little bit. And I went back and Googled it and started doing some research on it. We went to a sod farm right by our house, and he's a contractor, so he grabbed his measuring wheel and was walking out along the sod farm to the end of the farm into the pumpkin patch to try and get to where we felt like we had a decent idea of what the distance was. And so I'm hitting balls, and they're just blown away. And because most people don't ever really hit the ball as hard as they can. They maybe every now and then they reach back a little bit or turn a little harder back towards the ball and try and hit it harder. But when you're playing golf, you're never really going after it 100%. So I started doing that. It was really I've told this story several times, but just kind of for whatever reason it piqued my interest. And so a couple of days later, Monday morning, I thought I'm going to go to the driving range myself and hit some more balls and kind of see. And as I finished hitting this was kind of early in the morning, I was picking up my bag and walking away, and I see there's another person down the driving range. There was me and him and 2 or 3 other people there. And that was it. And he had a big staff bag with probably 10 or 11 drivers in it. And so I walked up and I was like, hey, do you do long drive? And it was Jeremy Montgomery. And he said, yeah, I am number 2 in the world.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome, And he was doing a photo shoot with Asher Golf. And anyhow, I got his information and he talked to me a little bit. But I told him, I said, yeah, I'm going to go to Albuquerque this week and try and qualify. And he kind of looked at my equipment and was like, you're going with that stuff? And it was just a stock tailor-made burner driver. It wasn't even mine. It was my friend Eric. And so anyways, he said that he had some equipment. So he kind of hooked me up with a driver. And so I drove that weekend down to Albuquerque, New Mexico with my brother. We did a local qualifier, which is what most players, that's how they get started, is they do a local qualifier. You pay at that time, it was $40. You get 6 balls, and whatever your longest drive is your score. It used to be that you could just, do as many of those attempts as you wanted within that time frame, which was kind of an interesting format. We could talk about that later, but there was a 4-hour window or a 2-hour window, and you were kind of watching to pay attention to what the wind was doing, because if the wind changed direction, everybody started signing up. And if the wind, changed the opposite direction, it was, at a disadvantage to hit. People would try and stop hitting or slow play or, do what they could to take advantage of the weather. But anyways, I ended up finishing second in that qualifier. The guy that had beaten me was a local guy and who had qualified for the World Championship, multiple times. And he was actually just starting in the senior division. He was really good. So I kind of felt good about what I had done. And that lined me up to go to a regional competition in Denver, which is subsequently is the first place I ever met Maurice Allen.
Oh, wow.
That was his first regional event as well.
Wow.
Shout out Maurice.
Yeah. So
Maurice is a friend of the Wedgies.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so we I kind of followed a pattern there at that that I used a lot, which is I basically would do really well and get to like round 7, and then I would go out of bounds twice. And so I didn't qualify for the World Championship in 2010. I attempted again in Texas, and same thing, got to like round 7 or whatever, went out of bounds twice in a row and was done. They used to do a last chance qualifier at the World Championships in Mesquite, where you could sign up and do basically a 32-man tournament in the morning, and then there was one, and I signed up for both of those. Got to like round 7, OB'd both times, I think, again. And then I was signed up for the second one, and I think that one I just did terrible and was out in like round 3 or 4. Just was not doing very well. But
Gotcha.
But I ended up just loving it. I just, for whatever reason, I enjoy playing golf, but there's just something different about smashing a drive, pumping it right down the fairway. There's a visceral reaction, and it catapulted me into this wanting to be the world long drive champion. And so I just was almost obsessed with it, practicing and training and doing anything and everything I could to gain. I used to go practice with Jeremy Montgomery. I would just like ask him if I could just come and practice with him, and he was cool about it. And I would go and watch him, and I was just blown away that he could hit a high draw like on command. And so I have worked a lot to try and do that same thing. And it's a more difficult shot, but I feel like I've gotten to the point where I can hit most shots with the driver when I need to.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of my story. Like I started doing tour events. I think my first tour event I did was in 2013 in Denver. My friend Eric and I drove out to that tour event. Kevin Shook, I believe, won it as the sun was going down. They were running out of daylight. And anyways, I just kept doing it after that. Basically been to almost every tour event since that time. And got to the point when COVID hit that we started our own, golf events company, the Professional Long Drivers Association, and now I work with World Long Drive in helping to run their league and their events, and just I just love it. So it's kind of from start to finish, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Now I kind of wanted to dive into what you were saying initially. So obviously you hit the ball far, just kind of naturally. What's like the benchmark so that, viewers and audience can kind of understand that? Like where were you at speed-wise, distance-wise when people started taking note and saying you should participate?
So we, first time I ever really measured was Jeremy Montgomery had a swing speed radar, which was, you can still buy these on Amazon. They're like $95. And for a long time, actually, it was a swing speed radar, but you face it towards the golf ball so that as you hit the golf ball, the radar picks up the fastest moving part of the club. So I was in like the 130s club head, and I remember he could get to the high 140s and 150. And I think that's fairly accurate. The problem with that device is that it picks up the fastest moving part of the club. So if you shut the club face really quickly, it'll pick up the toe, which is moving more quickly than the heel. And so it's not as accurate as some of the machines that we have now that we use consistently. But I was probably somewhere in like the 130, low 130 range.
Gotcha.
Is where I started.
And then at that time, like, were you a pretty avid golfer, like playing regularly, or was it just kind of like
I was like a weekend warrior,
a
hack. Like my friend of mine, Jason Hackett, and he and I were neighbors. We're actually still neighbors. Moved to a different neighborhood and moved across the street. But he and I would just go walk like 9 holes, maybe 5, 6, 7 times a year. There was actually a time when I was in college. I played baseball at the University of Utah, and some of us pitchers would go play after practice every now and then. And then I probably went like 5 years where I didn't even play golf until my neighbor Jason, he wanted to build his own clubs, and so he built his, I built mine, and we would go play a few times a year and just walk 9 holes and talk about being husbands and dads, because we were both starting families.
I just think that's cool because it just shows that you don't have to be a professional golfer to become a world champion. It's all about swing. And to be honest, like there's tons of baseball players that end up doing long drive. I mean, I know a lot of the guys that won just this season, you know, played college baseball or grew up playing baseball. And so just like painting that picture for the audience that like it doesn't require necessarily like professional level golf skills to be good at this.
Yeah, in fact, what we see a lot of are like in Canada, we see a lot of hockey players.
Yeah.
There's some advantages to the way that hockey players hit the puck, both right-handed and left-handed, that helps for them to be fast. So we see a lot of Canadians that are actually pretty good. Crossover from baseball, and a lot of times they're failed golfers. And if you think about it, there's a huge pool of failed golfers. Sure. And what I mean by that is the dream is to be on the PGA Tour, right? And there are very few, you know, or Live Tour now, right? Whatever you,
Yeah.
But you know, whatever playing professionally as a golfer, there's a very small pool of people that ever attain that goal, and there's thousands and thousands of people that are failed golfers. But that actually, you know, could compete in long drive. And they just have, like I said before, they've never really, you know, gone 100% at a ball. They've never prepped their body to swing as fast as they can and hit a golf ball. And you see, you know, like Kyle Berkshire, for example, he was a golfer growing up, right? He's the 3-time world champion, and he's a freak of nature. And I've never actually played around the golf with Kyle. I've seen Kyle hit a lot of golf balls, but I mean he played college golf for a little bit, I think at North Texas, and so he had a good golf skill set, and it's carried over to long drive. And now he's found that he's got this ability to swing tremendously fast and hit the ball in a way that'll fly for almost ever, it feels like.
Yeah, I want to say too though, like. You've said failed golfer, all this stuff like that. We've talked about you don't have to be a golf pro to play on the World Long Drive Tour. I don't want to like take away any of the talent and preparation that you guys do though at the same time. Like we've been to every event this season, right? Our team as well as yourself. And it's like pretty awe-inspiring to watch you guys warm up on the range and then go to compete and then trying to do some of those things when I get home and on a simulator and stuff. Like, I want to see what I do compared to these guys. And it's like not even close. It's like night and day what I can do and what you can do, right? And like, I mean, I've been playing golf since I was like 6 or 7 or 8. It's a completely, like, it's impressive what you guys can do and how you guys train and how you're able to swing the club as hard as you can for hours in a day. Like, it's impressive.
Yeah, and I love golf. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, when I say failed, that's like not a knock on people. I just say that because there's a lot of people trying to do that, and to not, you know, it's like there's how many kids are dreaming to be NBA basketball players.
It's like 99% of the world is failed professional athlete, you know.
Yeah, it's, you know, so, but the beautiful thing about golf is you can play golf until you're really, really old, right? And you can enjoy it, and there's a way for you to have fun with, you know, you can be a grandparent playing with grandkids. And so I love golf. And I would play golf more if I had more time. Right. Mm-hmm. But, it just is a lot of fun. So I think there's a whole pool of, you know, potential long drivers out there in this world of golf that have just never even tried it. So I'm big on people taking that opportunity
for sure
and just trying it for fun. Even if you fail, right, at least you experience it.
Yeah.
And that it is a different experience of, you know, like I said, in golf, you know, you're trying to put the ball on the hole. And so you have to be controlled, and your timing has to be good, and you can't lose focus, and you can't overfocus. There's all these things. You got to chip and putt and have all this touch, but to just swing at something 100% and then like connect and do exactly what you're trying to do with it it's a great feeling.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going with that, you know, set of questions is, you know, obviously you don't have to have the golf skill set necessarily, but what you guys do is extremely analytical. It's extremely detailed. It's, you know, it requires an extreme level of athleticism. So like, I just kind of wanted to talk about that. Cause you said how your friend could hit a, you know, high draw on command swinging at 150 plus miles an hour. Just talk to us about, like, you know, what does a long driver have to do with, you know, your hands and swing speeds and identifying the conditions. Like, that was one thing that for us I know for me, it was like really, really impressive when we came into this sport was like just how analytical you guys were about everything, right? The way the grid is shaped, the way the wind's coming, the humidity, like all that type of stuff. I think a lot of that goes unnoticed, and there's a lot of people in the audience that don't see that side of long drive.
Yeah, it definitely, if you're just watching it on TV, you're like, all these guys are doing is just swinging as hard as they can and praying to hit it. And when you experience long drive, the first thing I would say is that you're under a time element, and so that adds a little pressure to it. And then there's typically other people on the tee box, and so there's a short competition time frame that in and of itself messes with people as far as being able to control your body, like practicing on a driving range and then going out on the golf course, and all of a sudden you don't have this wide expanse of a driving range. Now you have this tight fairway, and it puts a little different twist on it, and that's what long drive does. It amps up that pressure, and so you have to be able to control your body under that pressure, which a lot of times people never get in those pressure situations.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of exhilarating, to be honest with you. There's an adrenaline rush. And it sounds kind of silly. You're like, you just put a time clock and a couple other guys on the tee box, and now all of a sudden you're talking adrenaline. But it really is. You're trying to perform something at a really high level, and it brings out this like I said, visceral reaction, a physical, biological, whatever reaction that creates some adrenaline, and it gives somebody something that they just don't get in their everyday life. And so it really is a lot of fun, even like if you're terrible. And some people never, you have to learn how to perform under pressure and control your body. And I keep saying that, but until you do it, it's hard to explain it right. But
I think every golfer knows the feeling of like piping a drive straight down the middle of the fairway, right? And like, obviously that's what everyone's after, but you take that, multiply it by X amount, you got people cheering for you, you got, competitors next to you. So like, I've never hit on the grid. I don't know what that feels like, but I do know what it feels like to hit, a square ball straight down the middle of the fairway, and the feeling that gives me. So
what the element that you're adding to it is, think of like this now. If you, let's say you had a putt, like a 10-foot putt for $1 million, and you had all day to think about making that putt, and you have people talking to you about making this putt, right? When you stand over the top of that putt to make it, are you going to be tight? Are you going to be loose? Or are you just going to be like, oh, this is like any other 10-foot putt I've putted on? No, you're not. You're going to be thinking like, there's thousands of people watching me on TV right now, or there's, this is if I make this putt, this is a life-changing putt. It's like adding that kind of pressure, even though that's not the money that's on the line. But it's like adding that type of psychological pressure on you in this time element with other people doing the same thing around you. And so it just is, it really is a lot of fun. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's an experience that people do it and they come back. Like you'll see people will try long drive and they're like instantly hooked. Yeah. And they were terrible. They're like, guys, we've seen put balls in play.
Yeah, we've seen it.
They're hitting balls like they're in the 2 streets over in the neighborhood, right?
They're putting balls through some of those signs.
But you come back to the next event, and there's this guy, and he's flown across the country
on his own dollar.
On his own dollar to do this again.
I think part of that too is like, I mean, you got a lot of past athletes, right? Like maybe a lot of guys played football or baseball or whatever in college or up to maybe some pro levels, and it's like, how many times can like a 45-year-old guy get that feeling that they had when they were playing football in high school or in college, And so I think long drive is unique in that sense that like it is an opportunity because it is golf related. The longevity of playing in the sport is so much longer than some other, competitions.
And the benefits are pretty, like for me at least, I started working out before I started doing long drive because I wanted to eat whatever I wanted to eat and not gain weight.
Yeah.
Sunday dinners, as you told us before.
Yeah. I don't know. I gained
5 pounds every weekend.
Every Sunday. From Saturday morning to Monday morning, somehow 5 pounds. But like what's great about something like long drive is you can do it into your later years, right? And it gives you motivation to train. It gives you, like I play better in long drive when I play a lot of golf. So there's kind of a dual benefit to your golf game and your health, and it's fun. So to me, I think everybody should be doing long drive. They're going to be better golfers, and they'll be better. There's a reason to go work out and work on your body and train. And who doesn't benefit from being outside and in the grass and the fresh air? It's great for
Well,
everyone.
and unlike the PGA Tour or something like that, you don't have to go to Q school to compete in an event. You talked about local qualifiers. You guys are all over the country every year, as we saw last year. You'll be doing the same thing again this year. Like, people can come play it, right? You said back in your day,
you can just sign up.
Yeah, it was $40. It's a little more now because there's inflation and stuff like that. But like, it is an accessible sport, and if it's something that anybody that's listening wants to go try or dabble in, you don't have to be the best in the world. You can still go up on the grid and compete and get those feelings you're talking about.
Right. And then you can see, marked improvement pretty quickly. Like I've seen guys, like people will reach out and say, I'm at this swing speed right now. How much could I improve? And then you tell them, well, almost everybody starts out at like 125 or 130. And then you can probably gain 10 miles an hour in 6 months of just swinging harder, swinging faster.
Well, I was seeing
2 or 3
something
times a week.
that Kyle Berkshire gave. I think it was a lesson to, I can't even remember. Anyways, I just remember one of his tips was like, if you want to gain speed, literally go to the range and swing as hard as you can more often. And like he said, that was one of the ways that you can like exponentially grow your swing speed, which is something I never do. But like, it's something that anyone
You're usually
can incorporate.
taught the opposite. Usually, when I go to lessons, they'll tell me you slow down,
Swing
down,
80%.
slow down. And when you guys go out there, it's
Speed
the
up,
exact
speed up,
opposite.
speed up.
But that's not what they teach junior golfers now.
Yeah.
They've realized that there's a window, and it's different for boys and girls, but there's usually a window from like 10 to 12 or 11 to 13 years old where you start to develop your fast twitch muscles. So you'll have like a lot of the coaches or PGA professionals that teach these young kids, they just tell them to swing as hard as they can. Because if you can develop that early on, you can, gain control of your speed, your swing later.
Yep.
But if you miss that window, you just don't quite get there.
And that's the skill set that you see a lot of guys like Tiger has that skill set. Rory McIlroy has those skills that in the professional golf game where they have that fast twitch muscle where they're not showing up the most jacked guy on the course that day.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
Tiger's looking pretty.
I mean, right now
Recently,
Tiger does look like a behemoth. But the thing is you have you've got that specific set of muscle skill set to be able to do that motion and to get that speed. So that's what's cool to watch.
Yeah, and that's kind of another question that we wanted to talk to you about is like, obviously you started in 2010, right? What have been like the evolutions of the game that you've seen, and like what do you see as being like, these are the top 2 or 3 things that guys these days are doing that's just going to take the sport to the next level?
Well, the training, I would say a few things: training, coaching, and equipment. There's probably been
Seems like there's more of a market for that direct kind of training, right? For that skill set.
Yeah. So players, as time has gone on, I think it used to be, let's say 25 years ago, it was some of these guys that were golfers that could really hit the ball a long way would get together and have competitions. Right? The Remax World Long Drive Championship started that, bringing more people into it, but it was definitely had a kind of a golf focus. And as it's kind of become a sport, a standalone sport on its own, you're seeing a lot of training specific to speed. And there's been a lot of advancements, I guess, in learning how to train. It used to just be like, hey, let's go lift some weights or something, right? And now, you're seeing a lot of things where people are doing like a lot of plyometrics. They're doing a lot of rotational
A lot
exercises,
for mobility and things like that.
right? I mean, I saw a guy talk about snowboarders in the X Games and how they were doing box jumps, and they were jumping on the box and then back off the box to catch, so they would have both muscles exploding and then
The landing.
with concentric and eccentric, I guess. So things like that. And so I think you start to see these trainers recognize there's a huge pool of potential clients in golf that they're trying to get them to learn how to rotate and do it quickly and for their health, but also to hit the ball further. I mean, it's unbelievable how many people out there, especially as you get older, you can't turn as well, you're not as explosive, and you want that back, and players, want to do that. Or if you're young, a lot of times, it's an ego thing, right? You want to just hammer the ball, and so you'll see that. The other side is technology. When I first started, it was almost, like I don't want to say a badge of honor or whatever, but it was kind of an ego thing of, I swing like a triple extra stiff shaft, or a quadruple extra stiff shaft. And people are like, whoa, that is so unbelievable. Because that's what people would do is when you were a normal golfer, they would go fit you for clubs and they would say, well, you're fast, so you need a stiff shaft. So it was like, you're really fast, you need a really stiff shaft. You're crazy fast, you need a crazy stiff shaft. But now what we're seeing is the trend is to go softer shaft. You swing the softest shaft that you can reasonably control and put balls in play because you'll be able to swing it faster. Yeah. And so, that's a technology thing that even like 4 years ago, that was kind of when that started happening. You saw that players started. I mean, I saw a player who switched like the day before he was supposed to hit at the World Championship because on the driving range, somebody said, here, try this shaft. And it was a softer shaft, and he was like 4 miles an hour faster. Wow. So he switched to that shaft to gain that advantage, and then he was terrible.
Yeah, that's a hard switch.
Yeah, because he was not used to swinging a soft shaft. And even myself, the shaft that I'm swinging right now is taking me 4 years
to figure out.
And I've tried to go softer. I even practice with softer shafts to try and go to the extreme and get used to the shaft that I have now. And the shaft I now have feels like a normal shaft. When I go to the stiff shaft that I used to swing, I just feel like I can't even. It's like a workout, just hitting like 10 or 15 balls with that shaft. But there's a balance because the other side of that is I feel like I gained my speed swinging those really stiff shafts. That's what made me faster. In my training, I shouldn't even tell people this. In my training now, I swing stiffer shafts, and then I'll swing softer shafts. I have a regimen of where I'm working on tempo of my body, and then at other times I'm working on like the explosiveness of the swing to try and get that stiffer shaft to
see. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, look how calculated that is, right? Like you're switching shafts regularly in your training.
When you look at the bag he's got sitting right here next to us,
it's crazy.
Yeah, you got four.
So that right there, that's.
I have to throw a shout out to two people: my coach Bobby Peterson at One Stop Power Shop, and then Jason Hordesky. And I'm going to throw out Brock Kaufman too at Callaway, and John Mlinarski. They're those guys. But the equipment that Jason Hordesky has developed with Bobby Peterson. Bobby Peterson, a lot of people, you may not know him. Check him out. ospsgolf.com is his website. He's got a flat top haircut. That's how you know he is.
That's how you recognize him.
But he is, we call him the mad scientist. He loves testing anything and everything. He'll try it. He's kind of the one I think that's pioneered the softer shaft. And honestly, Kyle Berkshire is his first kind of student that I know of. Yeah, that said, let's go to this softer shaft and see what we can do. And to Kyle's, credit, the shaft that he won with a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, is the same shaft he won with this year at the World Championship. Wow. So
the exact same shaft or same
the
spec?
same model.
Okay.
Yeah, the same model, basically the same specs. So you see that advancement in equipment that's helped people to get faster, but people have had to train more to get used. Like for myself as an example, right? I've tried that shaft back in 2019. I tried that shaft in like 3 events, and I was like, I'm done with this thing. I can't do it. It's not working for me, and now that's my go-to shaft. But I remember being so mad that I spent money to fly to Atlantic City for a televised event, and I was absolutely terrible. Just a horrible performance on my part, and I blamed the shaft, and I wasn't ready for it in competition.
Yeah, it's not the plane, it's the pilot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really was me, but I was like, this shaft. But Jason Hordesky at Patterson Kinetics, I mean, he's developed, some really great equipment that lasts. Like I see people breaking other companies' shafts, and I think I've broken one shaft in like 5 years of Patterson.
Wow.
I mean, like
On purpose or in
just from them wearing out after,
Gotcha.
and sometimes I think it's maybe happening in travel. I don't even think it's happening from hitting the ball. Yeah. So, I mean, and Jason Hordesky is such a good guy and such a great supporter of long drive. And then Callaway, for example, I hit a Callaway Paradigm. I hit a Callaway Epic Speed as well. That's kind of one of the driver heads I use. But Callaway has been so awesome in promoting long drive and supporting long drive, because as players get faster, this equipment breaks down faster. Faces crack, and they've developed a club face that just stands. I think I cracked 2 or 3 last year and I don't even know how many tens of thousands of balls I hit last year. So
That's incredible.
I mean, it's a credit to them and the technology, the product that they've produced. So
Well, I mean, and that's kind of, as we're kind of wrapping up here, because I mean, we could talk to you.
No.
We could
Keep
talk
this
to you
going.
all day.
keep this going.
But obviously, you're talking about all these advancements that are happening on the tech side, on the athlete side. You're talking about the brands that are getting involved. You've got a unique perspective in the fact that, yes, you're a competitor, one of the best, for years, but also you're on the business side of this. You're involved with having actually ran the PLDA and ran that league, to now being involved with the current league, which is the World Long Drive. Where do you see the future of long drive? What's next for this sport?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot more televised events and coverage this next year, and I'm hoping that what that does will help to spark interest in people coming out and competing, because I have a vision and a belief that everybody should be trying to hit the ball further as they play and practice, for a number of reasons. But I just see more people getting involved, and like I said before, when somebody tries it, they end up loving it, right? We had our own little competition with the three of you, right?
Yeah.
And what was your thought of that? I mean, tell me what you guys experienced. And we were having a good time with it, right? We were having fun, but still, like when you're like, all right, let's have a contest so you can hit the ball furthest.
Well, other than the fact that I showed up car sick to the event, preparations.
He didn't say anything
preparation's important, as we've been talking about for these last few minutes. No, I think the main thing that I recognized, the main thing that stood out to me when we did it, and again, ours was, just us. We were having fun. It was a good time. It wasn't televised, any of that stuff. Getting up on the tee box and looking out and seeing the flags and the size of the grid and everything like that, and knowing that people are watching you, and I'm trying to hit it as far as I can. I'm not trying to put it in play. I'm trying to hit it far and in play. That put some pressure on me already, and it's just us sitting there. Like, it is a different mentality, and there's different thoughts going through your head. And I was, like, a little bit nervous on those first few. I think I, topped
Which is funny because there's literally, 5 people watching.
But it's different because...
It's somebody, though, right?
Right.
Yeah, and you're not looking at a hole. You're not looking at bunkers and stuff. You're looking at flags on the side, and I'm trying to go as far within that area as I can, and I don't usually try to swing as hard as I can. So definitely different mindset, and I'm like, I want to beat him. I want you guys watching to think that I know what I'm doing. That adds some pressure to it. That's how I felt.
I mean, for me, I'm a super competitive person, so I'm always looking for opportunities to do that. But I think what was different is Tanner and I grew up playing a lot of UJGA events. We played in high school, same with Dane. And for me, I always remember that first tee was the most nerve-wracking.
Yeah, totally.
But you had, 17 more tee shots to bring it back.
It's a long game.
So I knew that even if I shanked one, off the hosel or something off the first tee, I could still recover and make par or bogey on that first hole. And then the rest, nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Whereas this was you had only a set number of mistakes that you could make, or else you're out.
Yeah.
And so I think that did add a different sense of pressure. And then obviously, I just love any opportunity to try and best my friends. So.
And he did.
Yeah.
For the record.
I did.
He did.
For the record, he did best us.
He
So
did.
it has to be said, but he did.
I'd like to do it again though.
So yeah, I mean,
And that's the big thing I was going to mention
Right?
is it's like I walked off again having lost, and I was upset because I think it was only by a couple of yards. It was a pretty close little
yeah, it was
finish.
a pretty
Yeah,
good margin.
yeah.
And with that little close finish, it was like, oh man, I know. Because the thing is, we did it in multiple rounds. And in the earlier round, I had one that was further than any of us ended up doing in the final round. And I was like, oh, I know it's in there. I know if I go back, if I change this. Like,
Yeah.
it was on my mind probably more than it should have been for how just kind of funny and jokey it was. But that's where I think it was.
Well, and the
exciting.
original plan was for us to do that first competition and then have a few sessions with you and see if we could get faster, see if we could get straighter, and then do it, a couple months down the road. Obviously, everyone just got so swamped and busy with their things, but I still think it'd be really fun to do it again and, have some training tips from the great Bubba. Give us another chance. So.
Well, and I have one more question before we're done. We've talked a lot. You've been around the sport for a long time. You've been involved in various facets of the sport as well. Like I don't think on the competition side there's probably anybody that knows the sport and the league better than you do. You've been around there a long time. What is, in all your years and all your experiences, what's maybe one or two of like the strangest or funniest or unique experiences that you've had during your time with,
What stands
the
out?
sport?
Well, you see, I'll tell you.
That's podcast appropriate.
Yeah, because there. I mean, I would say this because there is like an open to anybody opportunity to show up. We see some really, I don't know, strange or unique people show up. And when we were, I believe it was in Canada at the Port Rowan
It would
event.
be Canada,
Yeah, we had this guy show up, and he honestly he looked like a hippie, like long hair or whatever.
Was this year or last year?
No, this is like
Years ago.
5 or 6 years ago, and maybe it was 2019. And there's a video of this out on social media. You'll see it. But this guy shows up, and he is like winding himself up in the swing, and then he goes the other direction and hits the ball. And he's got long hair, and I would have thought it was like some guy just goofing off. No, this guy was
He's dead
serious
serious.
there. And he was trying to hit the ball, and he actually was hitting the ball down the fairway.
Wow.
Doing this, he was kind of a tall, thin guy. It's out there. Kind of went viral for,
We'll have to
for
look
a
it
little
up.
while.
Find out.
But that was like we were just blown away by this, and some of the techniques like that you see people to try to hit the ball further. You're just blown away. You're like, this is comical almost, but they're serious, and so I don't want to make fun of people or anything, but sometimes
Right.
you see some unique. But I will say this too, like when Kyle started doing his rock step thing, everybody was just like, what is going on here? And then he like wins, and they're like, oh, well,
Yeah. Shut him
Maybe.
up real quick.
maybe
Yep.
maybe there's something to it. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think of. There's some fun stuff that happens after events or the night before, like when people come into town. So I don't know.
Because it's such a close knit community. I
yeah,
think,
it is.
Like people don't necessarily see that on TV, right? That like a lot of you guys are like rooming together, or you're getting dinners pretty frequently
they
together,
train
before,
together
after,
and-
train together.
That's something that I actually tell people to do is to find a friend to do it with, because it's first of all, it's much more fun. And then, to have somebody to train with, you can work together, and the one person can observe what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they pick up tendencies. And what I end up doing a lot is videoing myself. And then I have to look at the video because I'll practice and I'll just be terrible. And I'm like, what am I doing? Then I'll say, hey, can you video me while I hit? And then I look at the video and I'm like, duh, that's what I can see it right there in my video. But sometimes you can't feel it when you're doing it. So, and it's just a lot of fun. Like I enjoy traveling now. I didn't travel a lot before I started doing long drive, but I love traveling, and I love hanging out with. I don't want to break any bro codes or anything of stuff being on the road, so but I mean there's a lot of fun stuff that happens during events and afterwards at the restaurant or wherever
Yeah.
you may be afterwards. So
Well, I guess if people want to see or hear more, they just got to come out.
yes, they do. They need
Got
to
to come out to the events and see what it is. And yeah, like we said, we had a blast throughout this last year being involved in long drive and being able to participate heavily in the sport, from you can watching as a fan, as a spectator, but also kind of being able to take those photos and those pictures out throughout the year. So
Can I say one more thing?
Hit us with
Because we talked about the technology equipment and then the coaching and the training. But one of the things of technology, and this goes back to kind of what I see in long drive in the future and what I'm hoping for, is I'm hoping for more technology that will allow the gamification of long drive. And that is, if you go to a driving range right now and there's a top tracer, right, you can now see your numbers. You can see the ball flight on the screen, and you can get a projected distance and things like that. I'm hoping that continues, that there's more, like in this facility we're in now, we're in an indoor facility, and there's a TrackMan sitting in front of us. And I'm hoping that this continues to gain in popularity, and that eventually we're doing maybe indoor tournaments somewhere, like in Las Vegas at a hotel convention center.
In the Sphere.
Yeah. And like for me, that's what because if there is a demand, if people are doing it, it's like pickleball right now, right? There is some real efforts going into growing pickleball. And I think we could have a similar thing in long drive if we have the right scenario for anybody and everybody to be able to compete. That to me is something that I think would really catapult the sport moving forward, because it's a lot of fun, and it's fun working at it. The journey is worth more than the destination a lot of times, and I think that long drive has that ability to have a great journey along the way.
Yep.
So
Totally.
final words.
And they're good final words. And I think, like we said, we appreciate taking that journey, and we hope that people who are listening who maybe haven't yet picked up on the long drive scene, or maybe haven't given it the fair shot because of stigma or whatever it might be, to give it that opportunity, because it's awesome, and we really appreciate it. And of course, we appreciate you and your time. And hopefully, this is a recurring opportunity where we can kind of talk to you more about this, and maybe catch up with you next season as you're going out there and, as you promised, taking down Eddie Fernandez.
When you win again next year.
That's right.
Exactly.
And bring the belt next time.
You would have thought that I would have remembered to bring the belt. So, congratulations on this, guys. I'm excited for you, because I love long form, content like podcasts, and I think you guys are going to do great, just like you do with your social media marketing. It's a lot of fun. It's good to have people focus specifically on golf to help bring it to the masses, because there's a lot of, you guys have a certain personality and flair that I think people can relate to. So I think you're going to do great.
Thank you.
I'm calling it right now.
Wow.
Dang, I'm getting that put in a pillow.
Like and subscribe.
Thank you, Bubba Reisbeck.
There we go.
Ryan Bubba Reisbeck.
We'll cut on that.